All right, I'm here at PorcFest with Phil Magness of the American Institute for Economic Research. Is that correct?
That is correct.
I nailed it.
Yeah.
And you're actually telling me before, that's your full-time gig now. You're no longer in academia. So
Yeah, taking a break from teaching, doing full-time research.
That's awesome. Yeah. So how did that work out? How did they approach you to pull you out of the university system and into this arena, which is really your wheelhouse?
So our president, Ed Stringham, is really kind of leading a renaissance of the organization. Though we're probably America's oldest free market think tank and research institute. But Ed took over as president about 2 years ago and has just reinvigorated the research climate there. Asked me if I wanted to be a full-time researcher, devote my attention and time to digging into some of the economic matters that I work on pretty regular basis, and I've really loved it.
So. Awesome, man. So what brought you to PorcFest specifically? Is this your first time?
Yeah, first time here. Came to talk about income inequality and lay out some new statistics that challenge some of the prevailing narrative in the media about what trends are in income concentration and what that means for tax policy. So came out for that, but then decided to hang out for the other talks.
How do you approach that subject of income inequality from a libertarian perspective? Because as someone who lives in California, that's something I hear a lot. It's something progressives are very concerned with. The idea that people just have disparity in the amount of income they earn. How do you address that issue from, I guess, your economic point of view?
Yeah, so my main focus right now is to get the stats right. Because the political narrative is that inequality is rising, and therefore we need high progressive income taxation to bring it down. So I go back through and figure out how that's calculated using IRS data, using other statistics that can indicate income and wealth, and actually make some adjustments to how people change their behavior in tax reporting in response to the tax system. And what I find is when you do that, it actually levels out the depicted uptick in the past 20 to 30 years that everyone's talking about. Really, inequality is not rising at anywhere near the level the public narrative has embraced. And when that's the case, it kind of obviates the call for higher taxation as the solution to inequality.
Do you think that the concept of inequality should even be a libertarian concern? I mean, let's just say even if the numbers told you something different. Let's say the numbers did tell you that there is greater income disparity. There are more billionaires and other people are staying down here. Right. If that were the case, would that be a concern from you from a libertarian perspective?
So it doesn't change my life any, that other people are doing very well and they're doing better than I am. I am living in a better, more technologically advanced world than people 20 years ago, 40 years ago, a century ago. I'm perfectly happy with that. But the fact is that quite a bit of the political narrative has gravitated to this. There are politicians on the left and the far left that they see this as an angle to get something that they've been denied on budgetary grounds or get something they've been denied on spending grounds, and that's tax hikes. We're not going to win by calling for more transfer programs. We're not going to win by calling for increasing taxes out of fiscal responsibility, even though that's dubious itself. But they think that they can get the kind of the foot into the door by campaigning on inequality. So they force that political narrative into the public sphere. And what I want to do is kind of check their work, hold them to account, keep them honest, and in areas where it's justified, correct the data that we're seeing, and that's going to change the policy implications quite a bit.
Phil, you were on a panel earlier today about liberty and populism.
Exactly.
I think you and Nick Sarwark, the LP chairman, had a little bit of a disagreement. It was all very polite, didn't get heated, but you have, I think you have somewhat of a different perspective on politics and how libertarians should approach politics. I think it was either you or maybe David Schellenberger put it this way, but I thought you had similar views that libertarians kind of look at politics sort of defensively, like we'll get involved to defend ourselves, defend our rights, whereas Nick sort of sees it in more of a way that we should be more positive and forceful and showing people our views through politics. So you want to speak on that a little bit, and just a little bit of that disagreement and maybe why you look at it in more of a defensive way as opposed to how we should be on the offense as others would take it.
Right. So my whole take is that the state acts in very predatory ways. Libertarians are probably unique in the sense that we're the only people that engage any form in the political realm that aren't seeking power. Whether it's on the left or the right, all the other political parties, they want to govern, they want to rule over us, and that puts us in an odd position. I agree to the extent that if the Libertarian Party is able to field candidates, it's better for them. I'm glad they're raising that flag. They're giving voters a choice, but I don't see that as an end to it. So if I see politics is kind of desanctifying.
At PorcFest random children just run between
exactly,
interviews.
exactly.
It's just the thing that happens here.
I see the political realm is something that draws in corruption, and it even corrupts well-intentioned people that seek out office. Because what is politics? It's the allocation of resources that have been taken up from the taxpayers. It's the allocation of resources that have been centralized through the state that are offered as favors to try and get you on my team, get you to vote for me. That's an inherently corrupting process. It's something that allows the distribution of political rent. So I don't really see that as an end to itself that's going to lead anywhere. Meanwhile, intellectual ideas, we're engaging in serious substantive conversation. That's not for next year's election cycle. That's not for something 3 months from now. This is keeping a conversation alive and going for centuries. It's keeping ideas that are worth defending viable, and that's more my strategy.
So you see it, political involvement maybe more as like a bigger picture type thing, where you do want to inspire people into the ideas.
Sure.
But looking at the short term, you think it can cause sort of a conflict of interest in the sense that if you have to sort of beg for a vote or beg for someone to like you, you almost inherently have to compromise your principles, or you're going to be at least put in a position where that becomes, an issue.
Right. It's the thing that would be necessary to win an election for someone like me would involve necessarily compromising my principles, going to the voters and offering them another handout, whether it's from the left or the right. That seems to be what motivates people to take political stances. Unfortunately, that's the system that we have, but that's not something that I could wake up in the morning and live with myself and be content about.
I'm curious what you think strategy-wise just of the whole idea of the Free State Project, of getting a bunch of like-minded people, having them move to the same kind of area, affect the local laws in that sort of way. What's your thoughts on that just as a strategy for liberty?
Sure. I approve of what they're doing. It's probably better for the political system in New Hampshire, but really, what are they bringing to the table? These are people that are setting up shops and opening up businesses. They're coming into communities and actually doing something. They're producing something. That is 1,000 times more powerful and effective than going to the ballot box once a year and casting a vote. So that's my whole take on it. It's great for New Hampshire. It's great for other states that wanted to do something like that. But it's your life doesn't revolve around an election one time a year or one time every 4 years. You're doing products for the community. You're doing services for the community by setting up your business, by just partaking in economic life.
Finally, Phil, I know you got to take off soon, but what's been your favorite part of being here at PorcFest?
Oh, just hanging out with people, sitting around the campfire at night and talking with other intellectuals that are interested in serious, substantive conversation.
Or unserious, it depends. Depending.
There's a
we do a little bit of both.
Frivolity to it, so that's
All right, Phil, thanks a lot, man. It's been great
absolutely.
seeing you. Take
Thanks.
care. Thanks a lot.